Hello, and thanks for joining us on Welcome to the Library. This program is all about the Anoka County Library, and they have over 1 million items for you, from books to ebooks to magazines to DVDs and maps and databases and so much more. And we're so pleased to have with us as our two guests. I want to welcome you both. Maggie Snow is here. She's the Assistant Director, and Jill Smith, who's the Collection Strategies Manager. Thank you both.
For having us.
Yeah, thank you both for being here. It's a very impressive library system. Can you start by giving us an overview?
Sure. Anoka County Library has 8 buildings. We have about 2.5 million circulations every year. We are very active, busy locations, and we are open 6 days a week. The Northtown Library in Blaine during the school year is open 7 days a week. So we have hours for everybody. And we also have an affiliate library in Columbia Heights. So they are a separate library system, but we share a lot of resources back and forth. So.
Very good. And you have such an impressive website, too, when you go on it, which I urge people to do because you can really find out what's going on. What are some of the featured events that you have? We have
our biggest featured events are our legacy programs. And this summer we've been doing a lot of musicians and comedians and big audience participation kinds of things for kids. We also have some songwriting workshops that we've been doing with James Hirsch, who's a local musician. That's a small hands-on workshop, again, for kids. That about 12 kids spend a week with James writing songs, and then they're going to produce a CD that's going to come out in September. And we'll also be doing some of those songwriting programs for adults in the fall. So summer is our busiest time of year. We are encouraging families to read together. We don't want kids to lose all the good academic skills they gained over the school year. We want them to keep reading over the summer. So we are encouraging reading and hands-on activities and a lot of learning in our libraries.
Very good. So Jill, summer is a busy time at the library. Yes. What are some of the things you've been doing, and what can people expect in the fall?
Yeah, well, we call our summer reading program Book-a-Walkie. They do it all across the metro area. Kids have a chance to read, write, and draw about their favorite books, and teens can share the best book ever with us. By doing a review either online or in the library, they get chances to win a family 4-pack of tickets to Bunker Beach, the State Fair, or a Twins game, or they can win books. We love it when they win books, so they're maybe a little more excited about the other prizes, but that's really fun. And we also gave kids the opportunity during June and July to read down their fines, so they could come in the library, and for every 15 minutes that they spent reading, we take $1 off fines that they had. We'll be doing that again in October in celebration of Teen Read Week. So if you have a little bit of fines on your card, you can come in and take care of that in October. And all sorts of different programs, art programs, learning about art and music from different cultures and things like that. And we'll continue those programs into the fall. We have some great partners that we worked with, Rum River Art Center, Silverwood Parks, all sorts of great community partners that come in and help us do those classes. We also have a Live at the Library series where we bring in musicians, very talented musicians from all across the Twin Cities. It's usually one Saturday every month. And we had some great, that goes from September until May. So check our website, our calendar of events, to see all of the great things that we have going on. We also will be doing some classes with the Loft Literary Center, writing classes, memoir writing, different series of classes that we can do at our locations.
Very good.
One of the things that I'm excited about that's going to start here in August and will run into the fall is we're working with The Puppets Rosenschnaz, and they are going to be doing some classes and workshops for teens to learn the art of puppeteering and staging a puppet show, and then the teens will perform those shows at our libraries in the fall. So it's some neat ways to learn job skills around some artistic endeavors, and then get to practice those in front of a live audience of families and kids.
So libraries are really more than just a place to read.
They are. They're a busy place. We have a lot of people can come and use the computers. We have Wi-Fi. We have wireless printing. So we actually get a lot of people coming in to print off resources from their wireless devices. They one-on-one computer instruction. We have people who come to the library to work on their resumes or to do job searching. We have they can meet with representatives from SCORE if they're interested in starting a small business business and need some assistance or some ideas, and someone to bounce ideas off of. So we've got some representatives who will do that from the SCORE Association. And yeah, it's just really a lively place. And
how difficult it is to engage young people in reading. Is it hard to get people to be readers these days with so many other activities and handheld devices, or because their parents were readers, they encourage their children to read, or what do you see as the difference in what it used to be?
You know, I think that kids are encouraged to read. I think what we try to do at the library is to encourage them to read for pleasure. And starting from babies, we've got story times for babies and their parents and caregivers all the way up through teenage years. I think once kids hit about 3rd, 4th grade, when they're now having to read to learn, that things start to shift a little bit. But I think that's also the time where parents can really reinforce the pleasure of reading by reading out loud still. I think a lot of kids may not admit to it, but you know, I think most of us probably heard stories when we were getting ready for bed, and so there's sort of a lullaby, and I think we never really give that up. That I think as adults we tend to think, well, they can read by themselves now, they don't need to hear, you know, I don't need to read to them, but still there's some pleasure in that. So even if your child is reading by themselves, that you know, I encourage families to read out loud together. You can do it while one person washes the dishes and the other person is reading stories, but we try from very early age to make reading fun and make it an enjoyable thing to do, so that it becomes a habit, so that it is a lifelong opportunity.
Do you find that too?
Yes, and the great thing about the library, we have so many books to choose from, and our staff have great expertise in sort of matching you with, I really want to read more about this, and finding the perfect book to do that. And you know, like Maggie said, we want to keep reading a pleasant experience. It's fun. It's not reading you have to do for school or anything like that. You can find your own niche, and there's something for everyone in our collection.
I'm curious too, what are the characteristics of librarians, the people that you work with? What kind of things do you all have in common that caused you to become librarians?
I think probably reading was a big part of it, reading and learning. I think we've got a lot of staff members who have interests and hobbies that we've got a lot of knitters, but we've got a lot of hands-on crafty kinds of people too, and we've got people who like to read and like to, librarians I think need to be people as well, that you know, I may have a lot of expertise in children's literature, or Jill in adult literature, but we like to share those ideas too. So we appreciate it, and we like it to be able to engage with the people who come into the library, or going out into the community and talk about the resources that we have, or talk about what their interests are, because the library's collections, regardless of what library you're at, there is something for everybody. And so if you are interested in learning a foreign language, we have something for you. And if you're interested in learning woodworking, we've got something for you. If you need to repair your car engine, we've got something for you. So there's just a lot of resources, and we like to share those with the community.
Do you find that to be true?
I think librarians are very curious by nature, so we like to investigate. So whenever you have a question, we're always happy to do some research and you know, help you find the answer or what you're looking for. And we like to, like Maggie was saying, learn new things. I think that's the best job of being a reference librarian. You're always learning something new that you didn't know the day before. So I think that's a common characteristic of our staff.
Yep. And I think it's a real treat to see when a patron comes in and asks a question, that light bulb moment for them, when we are able to find just that right thing that they wanted, or at least lead them down to some resources that they might be able to use for themselves. But to see their reaction to is really
What are some of the databases that you use? I think I read you have quite a few of them.
We have probably 80 databases. So we have a ton of databases. We're lucky in the metro area. We get databases through the Electronic Library of Minnesota. We call it ELM. It's funded statewide, so there's a lot of great resources through there. Probably my favorite one is Learning Express Library. You can go there and take practice tests, take a practice ACT, then do courses on Word or Excel or things like that. It's very easy to use. We also, with the metro area libraries, we joined together in something called MELSA, and we purchased databases through that as well. We have something called All Data for car repair, Ancestry for genealogy research, and then our newest thing that MELSA is offering is lynda.com, which you may have heard of in the business world. It's a library of training videos for all sorts of things, technical instruction, computer programming, but then just management skills as well. So we have access for free through our website. You just need your library card, sign up for an account, and you can access lynda.com, which is a great resource.
Very good. And how about the MELSA data book? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. So Jill mentioned that MELSA is an alliance of metro area libraries. So the 8 library systems that are in the Twin Cities work as a one entity for a lot of the databases and a lot of ebooks and things like that. We also share a calendar. So from the Anoka County Library website, you can see a calendar of events, but then you can also link up to the MELSA date book, and that shows all of the activities going on in all of the metro area libraries. So there's over 100 library buildings in the metro area, and all of them have something going on at some time. So it's a very active community, and so regardless of where you are, you can find something to do at the library. So
very good. Now, Jill, can you talk a little bit about what you can do electronically at the library?
There's so much you can do through our website, and in addition to just using our catalog to place requests or check your account, we've added this feature called Book Lens, so you can write reviews and rate books. You can give it like a 5-star rating, and then it will sort of predict if you will like a book. When you sign into your account, it'll say we recommend, or we think you will give this 4 stars. So that's an exciting new feature. And our probably most popular resource is ebooks. We have 2 services that you can get ebooks from free. You don't have to pay for them, not even the 99-cent ones. You can get them for free from the library, and it's the bestsellers, all the books you would be looking for. One service is called the 3M Cloud Library. And the great thing about that service is, Maggie mentioned MELSA is working with ebooks, so we share all of the ebooks across MELSA. So you can imagine what we can purchase and then what everyone else can purchase. It's a huge collection of ebooks. And then we also have ebooks through a service called Overdrive. They're super easy to use. I could download an ebook on this smartphone right now, right as we're talking. Wow. You just need your library card and the app. The apps are free to get. Depending on your device, the instructions vary. There's information on our website about how to download them, but you can also come to any of our libraries. Staff are happy to help you get things set up if you can't get it just from the instructions on our website. You can also connect with a librarian through our website. It's called Ask Min, so you can connect with a librarian 24/7 through chat, so they can help you that way. You can also apply for your library card online, so you can do that online. We also offer e-audiobooks through Overdrive, and also a service called One Click Digital, and then we have downloadable magazines through a service called Zinio for libraries. So you can download a lot of content from home and just use it, and that's available 24/7 any place you have an internet connection. You can download your books, say you're going to the cabin for a weekend or something, just download your books when you have an internet connection, then you can read them offline. So it's a great service when you're wide awake at 2 a.m. You can come and check out one of our boring books and get back to sleep, but that's been one of our growing services, and I just anticipate that it will grow because it's so convenient. No overdue charges. You don't have to remember your due date or anything like that. Yep, and did you want to talk about Homework Rescue, Maggie?
Sure. One of the other databases that we subscribe to, our service that we subscribe through MELSA, is our Homework Rescue database. So with your library card, again, you can log on. It's for anybody from 3rd grade up to 1st level college, and you say what grade you're in, and you say what subject you need assistance with, and you're connected to a live person on the other end in a virtual classroom. So when that algebra problem is stumping you, or if you got chemistry questions, you can log into that and get some help from an age-appropriate subject specialist. A lot of college and university students are tutoring on the other side of that, though you don't see their faces. But they also have a service which is really nice. If you give yourself enough time when you're writing that research paper, they will proofread your paper for you. So I think they have a 24-hour turnaround time for that. So you have to have you can't do it the night before it's due. You have to give yourself enough time, but it's really a nice service to have someone else double check and proofread your work, and they won't make any edits for you, but they'll give you some ideas in the margins of the paper of things you might want to work on a little bit before you hand it in.
So it's very impressive.
Yeah, it's really a slick service, and you can really tell. Most of the questions that we see coming in are math and science related, middle school and high school math and science, but you can really tell when the writing assignments are due, because that's when that really spikes up in statistics. So
very good. All right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back and have our little book club. So now we're going to play a little video that Anoka Library put together, and I want to thank Martha Weaver for this. And the name of the video is From Liberia to the Library, and it features someone locally named Enoch Na. Let's take a look.
Well, I'm from Liberia, West Africa. I got in touch with a pastor, Randy Coping. He's the pastor for the United Methodist Church, Kunrabi United Methodist Church. I told him, I said, Pastor, I want to, since I have the opportunity to come to America, I want to learn how to the computer. I want to operate a computer, but in Africa it's very, very difficult. Only the elite have the chance. He said, okay, let's go to the library, and he brought me in. And then I got my library card. Then after a couple of weeks, I told the lady, Lord, I want to learn to operate a computer. I said, this is my first thing I want to do in America. I want to operate a computer. He said, okay, we have a lady, we have a volunteer that will come and teach you. So I was eager to get the volunteer. So one day the volunteer came and they called Kathy. And she came into the computers and she brought a mouse. And the mouse was controlling my hand. So I controlled the mouse. She said, you will learn it. I said, yes, I have to learn it. And after 2-3 weeks, I was able to get to the computers, get to those stories from my country. Then from the library, I can prepare a resume. From the library, I was able to get a job. From the library, I can do the research. And the library is a resource center. It changed my life tremendously. Because if I want to call back home, I told my family that I can operate a computer. They couldn't believe that. When I prepared the resume at that time on the computer, I had 3 jobs right away that they wanted for me to do. So I decided to take the first choice, which is hand over my. And at the time that came, I was confused, I was traumatized, so I need books. And that gave me courage too, that any book that you want, you can get it from the library. And besides that, the workers here are very, very courteous and friendly. And the library is willing to give you. They are professional people who have been trained, patient, friendly, and tolerant to do your work. The first 3 months, I took the library to be my home. And the library was my home. More than a book. And they are friendly people.
Another thing about libraries that is so fantastic are book clubs, and they often facilitate book clubs. And one thing I really love about the library is the Book in a Bag program. And this is something that my book club does. Can you tell us a little bit about Book in the Bag?
Sure. So Book Club in a Bag comes in a handy little bag like this, and it's 8 copies of books. It's funded mostly by the Friends of the Library, a few other funding sources, but it's mostly a gift from that great group. It also comes with a discussion guide, and then if a book doesn't have questions, just ideas of other questions you can ask. And then we have over 100 of them to choose from. They check out for 6 weeks, so it should give you enough time to read them. But they are pretty popular, so if there's some of those hot titles, you might want to reserve them in advance.
Very good. Okay, let's see what you brought today. Tell us about some of the books that you think are great. Children's books are your specialty.
They are, and so that's mostly what I've brought today. The first one that I brought, because the state fair is coming up and the Anoka County Fair just wound down, is Mr. Ferris and His Wheel. So this is a picture book about George Ferris, who designed the first Ferris wheel. He called it the Monster Wheel to begin with, but afterwards the funders renamed it the Ferris wheel. But the first one was built in 1893. They were preparing for the World's Fair that was going to be in Chicago that year, and everybody was still talking about the previous World's Fair, which was in Paris, where they unveiled the Eiffel Tower, which was at the time the tallest man-made structure. So they needed something to rival the Eiffel Tower. So Mr. Ferris proposed a movable structure, and not everybody was on board with this, thinking this was a good idea, but he was able to get it built. Interestingly, I thought the cars that were on it each held 40 people. So they were very large cars on this first one. And at night, it was lit up with over 3,000 light bulbs, which were also new that year. So it was you could see it for miles and miles away. So everybody was very excited. So this is a good historical book about Mr. Ferris and his wheel. So.
And what age appropriate would that be for?
I would say like 2nd through 4th grade, 2nd, 5th grade.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other one that I read just recently is The First Case. It's a Detective Gordon mystery. So this is a translation of a Swedish novel by Ulf Nilsson, and it is this is probably for 1st through 4th grade as well, but a good one for a lot of those precocious readers that are reading above grade level. But someone is stealing the nuts in the forest, and Detective Gordon has to figure out who's been doing that, and he deputizes a young mouse to help him. He's sort of at the end of his career, and rather than chasing thieves, he would prefer to eat cakes and stamp papers. So he deputizes a young mouse, but it's just a very gentle, lovely mystery story. So
nice.
Yep.
And next?
The other two, these two go together. So I am, although I tend to read books, I also tend to read a lot of magazines. And one of my favorite is Muse magazine. So I subscribe to this personally, even though we do have lots of copies of it in the library as well. So this magazine is geared maybe toward 9 to 13-year-olds, and it focuses on a lot of science-related stories. And so the most recent one this summer is about outbreaks. So all the stories are about viruses or outbreaks in some way. So there's some things about zombies, there's some things about the Ebola virus, there's some a really good article about the CDC and their work that they do as they're trying to track outbreaks and things. But one of the articles in there is about a doctor who's also listed in this is historical fiction, but Dr. John Snow was a doctor in London during the cholera outbreak, and he was the one that he had a theory that cholera was not spread through the air, but through the water. And so this particular story is kind of an action-adventure mystery drama, good again for middle school students, that talks about how there's a couple of characters in here who are real people, but then the rest of the story is made up. But how they tracked that cholera outbreak and mapped it, and they realized it was coming from the well, and so Dr. Snow convinced the people of London to take the handle off that well so they would stop the outbreak. So pairing some magazines with some books that go together. I also like I said, there was an article about the CDC and their work in there, so I also wanted to, I've already twisted Jill's arm to download this, but the CDC has a terrific app called Track the Outbreak, I think it's a series of puzzles where they give you, they tell you 4 college students in Texas have come up with flu-like symptoms, and so now you need to figure out what it was that was causing them to be sick and stop it from breaking out even further. So there's probably, I don't know, a dozen or 15 different puzzles on there, and they're kind of like potato chips that you just gotta, once you start one, you gotta get going to the next one. So it's nice that there's different media that all tie together. There's magazines, there's books, and there's the app that all tie to outbreaks.
And then one more for you.
One more. This one now, I just picked this up the other day, and I haven't started reading it yet, other than to skim it, but Sky Sailors is about the history of hot air ballooning. So all of the stories in this book are true stories from the 1780s till about 1912. And so this was before airplanes, before airships, and all of the daredevils and the scientists and folks who were working with hot air balloons. So some really interesting stories. One of them was about a woman who didn't use a bat. She was a parachutist, but she didn't use a basket underneath her when she was going up the balloons. She had her foot in just around some ropes, and she was holding onto a trapeze, and that's how she would float back to the. So I would not try it myself, but it's interesting to read about. So Sky Sailors is my last
What I like about yours is you learned something from all of these.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Very nice. Okay, Jill, what did you bring?
Okay, I'm going to talk about some adult fiction books. This was my latest book club pick, The Weight of Blood. This is by Laura McHugh, and this is set in the Ozarks in a hardscrabble town called Henbane, where everyone's just doing what they need to do to survive. And it's the story of Lucy, who is our 17-year-old protagonist, and her friend Sherry is found murdered at the river. So she starts to investigate to see what's going on, and since it's a small town, everybody kind of figures out that she's looking into this. And it also leads back to family secrets. Her mother disappeared when she was 1 year old, so it sort of leads back into that. And great writing. You really get the feeling like you are in that small town. It's a wonderful read, provides for a great book club discussion. One of my favorite things to read are historical mysteries, so I was just delighted to find this series. This is My Lady Judge by Cora Harrison. It's the first in the series, but there were 10 when I discovered the series, which is super exciting because then I know I can read them all. I don't have to wait the year for the next one to come out. And this is set in 1509, which is when Henry VIII was just becoming king, so some of the early Tudor times. I know that's pretty popular right now, but it's set in Ireland, on the west coast of Ireland, in a place called the Burn, which I've been there, and it's this beautiful stark countryside, but then you have the ocean coming in. And so it's the story of Mara, who is a lady judge, and they called them Brahones. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. There's a lot of Gaelic in here. And she is also runs a law school for aspiring lawyers there. And then, of course, there's a murder that happens, and she has to figure out what happened with her law school students. And it's an interesting clash of tensions between English law that they're practicing in Galway, which is not too far from this area, and then the traditional Irish laws. So you learn a little bit more about what Irish culture was like before the British really came in, and you can just sort of get the sense of Henry VIII has his eye on the Burn, and it's a great read. And the series is wonderful. I'm up to book 8, so I don't know what I'm going to do when I finish. I'll have to wait for them. The next one is We Are All Completely Beside Ourselves by Karen Joy Fowler. And I don't want to say too much about this book because I went into it kind of blind, which is unusual. As a librarian, I read lots of reviews, so I know what's going to happen in the book, but I really didn't know what happened in the plot, and I was so delightfully surprised that I want people to have that same experience of just taking a read and being like, whoa, that was a really good little book. One thing that I really liked about it, it kind of flashes back to the narrator. She was a college girl in the early 90s, which is when I was in college, so she does a great job of sort of recreating what it was like with the music we listened to and the things we did and sort of those trends at that time. And it's basically the story of how her family kind of imploded because of something that happened. But again, I don't want to give it away because it's a fun little surprise.
I read that book too, and I loved that book.
Yes.
But you have to say a little more, don't you? Or are you going to just leave it? Because there's a big thing.
Yeah, there's a little twist, but I want people to be surprised to get to that little twist because, but it's a good one, isn't it? Great. And then the last one, this is a new book just from this summer. It's called The Cherry Harvest by Lucy Santa, and it's set in Door County, Wisconsin. I'm going there in a couple weeks, so I picked it up to read it. And it's about, it's historical. It's set during World War II, and this is true that during World War II, they lost a lot of their migrant workers who would come and pick the cherries, and then, their young men were off fighting the war, so they brought in German POWs to pick the cherries on their farms. So it kind of goes into this one family, the Christensen family, and how they deal with having, there's some opposition, and then their son is fighting the war. So how do you reconcile dealing with these Germans who are helping you out on your farm while your son is in Europe fighting Nazis? There's some tension there, and of course, a big thing that happens in the end. But again, a really lovely book, and it really makes you, that's not too far from us, Wisconsin and Door County, so you get kind of that more local connection to that. So
those are fantastic. It's just so nice to hear you both be so enthusiastic about books. And we're almost out of time, but quickly, I'm going to say the 3 that I'm going to recommend. Mine is called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doty, and this is a memoir of a young woman who worked as a mortuary person in Los Angeles. And it is on what happened to her in many real-life situations, and it's very eye-opening, and I loved it. This is a trilogy by Marilyn Robinson, who teaches at the University of Iowa, and she wrote Housekeeping, Gilead, and then Lila. Very beautifully written. She's a fantastic writer. I loved it. And then I thought I would choose a local guy, Garrison Keillor, because he mentions Anoka, and he mentions growing up here, and I thought this was really delightful, and I think he's getting quite sentimental in his old age. So we hope to have him on QCTV soon, too. So
that would be
fantastic.
great. Yeah,
well, I want to thank you both for being here. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and I think we should do it again because we had plans to read out loud, but we kind of ran out of time. But the Anoka County Library is just fantastic. There's so much for everybody, and I really appreciate you both being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
And there will be more that we can tell you about going on at the library, so we're happy to come back.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us for Let's Go to the Library, and thank you for watching QCTV.